we're going backwards with our mushrooms. And what I mean by that is we're taking it a step earlier on the creation of our mushrooms. G'day everyone, I'm Ian and we're doing more mushroom growing and a little bit more complicated. We initially started growing mushrooms from those grow blocks you can buy from supermarkets and hardware stores, and sometimes from decent places like Little Acre, where you get the block already formed, ready to fruit. You put a cut in the plastic, keep it moist. Gotta love that word. Spray it every now and again with a spray bottle of water, and you usually get some mushrooms growing. Unless you buy the ones from the local hardware store. I'll link to that video. Hopeless, those ones. You know, the box ones that you do the portobellos or button mushrooms in. Never have any luck. We hope to change that. The next step on was buying grain spawn. Now here you buy the mycelium growing in a bag of grain, you put it into a substrate, and from a 1 kilo bag you get, I don't know, 3-4 big blocks of mushrooms to grow, and you might get 4-6 kilos out of that if you're lucky. But now we're going to be doing our own grain spawn, and to achieve this I'll go on to my friends at Risen Flour and I bought some rye grain. I've got 4.7 kilos here. It only cost about 20 bucks. And this is the rye grain, and we're going to have to treat that, so we'll go through all the steps on how to get that ready. Now that I have my new autoclave, and I'll link to that up there as well, we can actually sterilise this stuff. And it's crucial that we sterilise it properly, which is why we haven't done it so far, because I couldn't sterilise things in my cheap and nasty pressure cooker. So let's go and start getting things ready to go. It's going to take a few days to get ready, but hopefully by then my portobello and wine cap mushroom culture will arrive so we can inject. Now that sounds wrong. YouTube's going to kill me for that one, aren't they? We're going to inoculate our grain once we prepared it. So let's get on with it. Step 1. I got 3.5 of these out of 4.7 kilos, so I think 5 kilo of rye is the spot on amount for what I want to do, because it fills up my autoclave. So I'll just pop that back in the autoclave. We shall now fill our bucket up with water. Come have a look. Giving this around, looking everything up. We shall cover that, the wrong lid, it'll just keep any bugs out, and come back tomorrow for it. So after soaking our grain overnight, we've now got to rinse it a few times, which we shall empty the water out, and that gets rid of most of the floating things. So let's fill it up again. Now you'll notice I've got an old screen door here. We'll come to why this is out here and what we'll be doing with it shortly. So we just keep rinsing it. Trying not to get too much of the rye coming out, which is a challenge on its own. I'll take my jacket off. Getting that hose right into the bottom. That's now reasonably clear. I'm just going to hose all this spare grain off. And we need to cook this a little bit. I hope I haven't been cutting my head off on this, but I wanted you to see what I was doing here. So I'm going to get my pan, we're going to put it into our big pot, and then we'll go inside and cook it. We have it in our pan, on the heat. We're going to bring it to the boil and then gently simmer for 15 minutes, very gently. If we simmer too long, some of the grains will break, crack open, and that's not what we want. What we want here is we're going to dry it once it's cooked, but we want the moisture to remain within the kernel itself, within the grain. And I'll show you how we do that shortly. And this is why we've got the door out. Simmered for 15 minutes, very gentle simmer. We now have to pour it out and let the surface dry. I hope we don't get any rain. Now, to pour this without pouring it on my feet, that's going to be a challenge. There we go. So now we spread it out. Ow, ow, ow. Got them inside my glove. Got a bean in there. We'll give this about an hour for the surface to dry off, and then we'll put it in jars. So now that we've got our grain ready to go, and it's organic, WA grown rye grain, I didn't mention that before and I should have. We need to get jars to put it in. And I'm going to be using these nice jars because I had them. I think they're a 2 litre. It's on here somewhere. Yeah, 2 litre. We're going to fill them full of grain and then inject the culture through the lid. Not easy to do at the moment because it's a metal lid. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole in them and use these little plugs that I got from Temu. Here, I'll get another one out and show you. So I've got these little plugs which will become our self-sealing injection port. To do that, we've got to drill a hole in the lid. It's a 6.5mm hole for these particular plugs, but we're going to do 2 holes. The second hole is going to be a breather. Now I've got some little felt patches which will go over the top of the second hole. Again, bought them from Temu. So let's drill a hole. Ignore all the mess here, I'm still doing my greenhouse. So we've just got our drill. We'll pop a drill hole in one side, gently run through, don't put any pressure on it. And we need another one for our breather. Right, we'll need to get those. So we just need to clean that up a little bit now, get those burrs of aluminium off. That's it. We'll put our self-sealable injection port in here, and it is a very firm fit, which is what we want. There we go. And now we'll get our filter. Peel one off, and over the top he goes. 1 jar done. I'll go and do the rest, but let's see how they fit inside our sterilizer. So in the sterilizer, we can do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 11 kilograms or 11 litres of grain spawn, which is going to be great. One of these will do 2 mushroom bags. So quite a lot. And I think this will do us. I could put another jar in here, but it's using a spare one. If you want to do it on the cheap, you could just use old jars like these. A grain that has been drying for an hour, and some of it still needs a little bit more because it's been quite humid out here. But what I'm going to do is get the jars I prepared earlier, and we're just going to fill them up with this grain, which should be dry to the touch. And while I'm doing that, the camera person raised a really good point. She said, this doesn't look very hygienic, or what did you say exactly? Sanitary. And that's because it's not. And it doesn't need to be, because we are sterilising these. So let's just fill this one up. Something I should have done as well is soak this with a bit of gypsum, but I didn't. Now the gypsum just helps with keeping the grains flowing freely, and it's a bit of a mineral boost for them. And we only need about a teaspoon per pound of spawn. I'm not going to completely fill them because we want room to shake them. There's our specially prepared lids with the self-healing injection port and the air filter. And there we go. I'm going to do the rest of these, but I'm going to leave it for a little bit longer to let the grain dry, just a fraction more. So now our grain's in the jar. Got a couple of things we need to do before we actually sterilise it. And that is, we just put a seal of alfoil over the top, and that's to stop any humidity getting in there. So we'll just tighten that up so it's in and under the seal. There we go. And he can go back in. I'll do the rest of these. We'll fill the autoclave up and get ready to cook. Okay, let's fill up our autoclave with distilled water, not tap water because we don't want the chlorine buildup. So you can see we're over the heating element, we're below that fill line, we're all good to put our jars in. We need to make sure that this channel is roughly lined up with our release hose in the lid. We need to make sure we cover our heating element. There we go. So that's going to go in there. Put our lid on. Now time to get it to the boil. All done. 90 minutes at 15 psi, and our grain spawn should now be sterilised. So I'm going to get the first few of them out. Put this back over here for the time being. Remember, the alfoil was there to stop steam getting into the grain spawn. And we have our special caps on top. So there's our injection point, self-sealing, and there's our filter to allow breathing. Let's open up our syringes that we got, and I'll link to the unboxing of these. In one we have 3 needles, a couple of, well, 3 alcohol swabs, and 2 syringes of mycelium. And if we look there, there's our mycelium, 20 ml of each. We've given it a good shake, and we're going to put our portobellos in the other lot. So there's our wine cap and our portobellos. Now to do this, we get the dog out of the way because he's a germ factory. We're going to take our alcohol swab, we're going to wipe around the lid here. Going to get one of our syringes. So just sterilise my hands really well. Don't really need gloves because we're not going to be touching anything too close. So we've sterilised our hands and just touched that, so that's fine. This is nice and sterile. We'll take our little cap off if I can. There we go. And we're going to put around about 7 to 8 ml in each one of these 1 kilo grain spawns. So we go into our self-sealing, and we watch, come around here, you can see the syringe markings. So we've got 21 ml, we'll take it down to here, that's 1, down to there. Do our next one. If you're watching here, you can see it squirt in. And then our final one. But make sure we get in the middle there. And that is our syringe dealt with. Put the pointy bit away. These are now going to sit for probably a couple of weeks while we hope they colonise, but we will put them out in our mushroom tent. And every now and again we can give them a shake just to break the mycelium up and aid the growth through. So now we shall mark these as our portobello, and we'll do the wine caps. Okay, now with the wine cap, we've got slightly less grain spawn. Just the way it turned out. and a small jar there. So let's get our wine cap, our alcohol swab. These have just come out the sterilizer, so they should be fine, even without doing this, but better safe than sorry. Let's open our needle. Another shake. We'll get our end cap off. Again, we have 20 ml. We want to put probably 7 or 8 in each of these and the leftover in there. So in we go. Into our, I'm going to get it right in the middle there, it doesn't go through. Self-healing. And there's about 7. Into this one. There we are. Plenty for that one. And finally into this one. There we go. Seal up our pointy bit and find where the pointy bit's gone. So here we have it. We have 3 kilos of portobello, about 2.5 kilos of wine cap, all for the cost of one of these 20 ml syringes and the grain. So that's a bit of a price saving. I'll put the price of the syringes up there so that we don't have to go back and reference the other videos. So if you want to see if these turn out or not, you're going to have to like, subscribe and hit that bell icon. Fingers crossed. Enjoy life. I'll catch you in the garden.